only the responsible reinforcement of common courage and common sense. Religion only sets up the normal mood of health against the 100 moods of disease. But there is this about such ghastly empty enigmas, that they always have an answer to the obvious answer, the reply offered by daily reason. Suppose a man's children have gone swimming. Suppose he is suddenly throttled by the senseless fear that they are drowned. The obvious answer is, only one man in 1,000 has his children drowned. But a deeper voice, deeper being as deep as hell, answers, and why should not you be the 1,000th man? What is true of tragic doubt is also true of trivial doubt. The voter's guardian devil said to him, "If you don't vote today, you can do 15 things which will quite certainly do some good somewhere. Please a friend, please a child, please a maddened publisher. And what good do you expect to do by voting? You don't think your man will get in by one vote, do you?" To this he knew the answer of common sense. But if everybody said that, nobody would get in at all. And then there came that deeper voice from Hades. "But you are not settling what everybody shall do, but what one person on one occasion shall do. If this afternoon you went your way about more solid things, how would it matter, and who would ever know?" Yet somehow the voter drove on blindly through the blackening London roads, and found somewhere a tedious polling station, and recorded his tiny vote. The politician for whom the voter had voted got in by 555 votes. The voter read this the next morning at breakfast, being in a more cheery and expansive mood, and found something very fascinating, not merely in the fact of the majority, but even in the form of it. There was something symbolic about the 3 exact figures. One felt it might be a sort of motto or cipher. In the great book of seals and cloudy symbols there is just such a thundering repetition. 666 was the mark of the beast. 555 is the mark of the man, the triumphant tribune and citizen. A number so symmetrical as that really rises out of the region of science into the region of art. It is a pattern like the egg and dart ornament, or the Greek key. One might edge a wallpaper or fringe a robe with a recurring decimal. And while the voter luxuriated in this light exactitude of the numbers, a thought crossed his mind, and he almost leapt to his feet. "Why, good heavens!" he cried. "I won that election, and it was won by one vote. But for me it would have been the despicable, broken backed, disjointed, inharmonious figure 554. The whole artistic point would have vanished. The mark of the man would have disappeared from history. It was I who, with masterful hand, seized the chisel and carved the hieroglyph, complete and perfect. I clutched the trembling hand of destiny when it was about to make a dull square 4, and forced it to make a nice curly 5. Why, but for me the cosmos would have lost a coincidence." After this outburst the voter sat down and finished his breakfast. Ethandune. Perhaps you do not know where Ethandune is. Nor do I. Nor does anybody. That is where the somewhat sombre fun begins. I cannot even tell you for certain whether it is the name of a forest or a town or a hill. I can only say that in any case it is of the kind that floats and is unfixed. If it is a forest, it is one of those forests that march with a million legs, like the walking trees that were the doom of Macbeth. If it is a town, it is one of those towns that vanish, like a city of tents. If it is a hill, it is a flying hill, like the mountain to which faith lends wings. Over a vast dim region of England this dark name of Ethandune floats like an eagle, doubtful where to swoop and strike. And indeed there were dark birds of prey enough over Ethandune, wherever it was. But now Ethandune itself has grown as dark and drifting as the black drifts of the birds. And yet without this word that you cannot fit with a meaning and hardly with a memory, you would be sitting in a very different chair at this moment, and looking at a very different tablecloth. As a practical modern phrase I do not commend it. If my private critics and correspondents, in whom I delight, should happen to address me G. K. Chesterton, post restante Ethandune, I fear their letters would not come to hand. If 200 commercial travellers should agree to discuss a business matter at Ethandune from 5 to 5:15, I am afraid they would grow old in the district as white-haired wanderers. To put it plainly, Ethandune is anywhere and nowhere in the Western Hills. It is an English mirage, and yet but for this doubtful thing you would have probably no Daily News on Saturday, and certainly no church on Sunday. I do not say that either of these two things is a benefit, but I do say that they are customs, and that you would not possess them except through this mystery. You would not have Christmas puddings, nor probably any puddings. You would not have Easter eggs, probably not poached eggs. I strongly suspect not scrambled eggs, and the best historians are decidedly doubtful about curried eggs. To cut a long story short, the longest of all stories, you would not have any civilization, far less any Christian civilization. And if in some moment of gentle curiosity you wish to know why you are the polished, sparkling, rounded, and wholly satisfactory citizen which you obviously are, then I can give you no more definite answer, geographical or historical, but only toll in your ears the tone of the uncaptured name, Ethandune. I will try to state quite sensibly why it is as important as it is, and yet even that is not easy. If I were to state the mere fact from history books, numbers of people would think it equally trivial and remote, like some war of the Picts and Scots. The point perhaps might be put this way. There is a certain spirit in the world which breaks everything off short. There may be magnificence in the smashing, but the thing is smashed. There may be a certain splendour, but the splendour is sterile. It abolishes all future splendours. I mean, to take a working example, York Minster covered with flames might happen to be quite as beautiful as York Minster covered with carvings, but the carvings produce more carvings. The flames produce nothing but a little black heat. When any act has this cul-de-sac quality, it matters little whether it is done by book or sword, by a clumsy battle axe or chemical bomb. The case is the same with ideas. The pessimist may be a proud figure when he curses all the stars. The optimist may be an even prouder figure when he blesses them all. But the real test is not in the energy, but in the effect. When the optimist has said, "All things are interesting," we are left free. We can be interested as much or as little as we please. But when the pessimist says, "No things are interesting," it may be a very witty remark, but it is the last witty remark that can be made on the subject. He has burnt his cathedral. He has had his blaze, and the rest is ashes. The sceptic, like bees, give their one sting and die. The pessimist must be wrong, because he says the last word. Now this spirit that denies and that destroys had at one period of history a dreadful epic of military superiority. They did burn York Minster, or at least places of the same kind. Roughly speaking, from the 7th century to the 10th, a dense tide of darkness, of chaos and brainless cruelty poured on these islands and on the western coast of the continent, which well nigh cut them off from all the white man's culture for ever. And this is the final human test, that the very chiefs of that vague age were remembered or forgotten according to how they had resisted this almost cosmic raid. Nobody thought of the modern nonsense about races. Everybody thought of the human race and its highest achievements. Arthur was a Celt. and may have been a fabulous Celt, but he was a fable.